Hey, Austin Netzley here, author, investor, and founder of 2X. For the past 2 years, we've been working with 6- and 7-figure business owners all across the world to help them get free from the day-to-day operations so they can scale their income and business faster than ever before. And now we're showing you the real-life stories, the real-life principles of what matters as you try to scale, as we walk a handful of entrepreneurs through the journey to go from 6 to 7 figures. Come, check it out. Hey, welcome to this video on how to go from 6 to 7 figures. What we're going to be doing is breaking down a business today on somebody that needs to get out of the weeds, a great entrepreneur, Jess Chans. What she knows that she needs to do to scale to the next level is get out of fulfillment. Right now, so many people are pulling her in different directions. What she's got to do is get out of the weeds, start working on the business, and we're going to talk about one of the key forms of leverage to be able to do that. Tune in as we dive into her business and show you the principles that matter to get free and start scaling. This is From 6 to 7 Figures. Let's go talk with Jess. All right, welcome back to another episode. What we do here at 2X is we love to find people that have really awesome potential, but they're not quite tapping into that potential, or they have a big opportunity to grow a big business. And one of those people was Miss Jess Chans. And Jess is a young entrepreneur that just started here recently, but has so much potential and already is gaining a lot of traction. So Jess, I'm excited to break down your story a little bit, break down your business, and most importantly, see what we can do to scale it. But first of all, tell us, how did you get into business? How did you actually stumble your way in?
Yeah, so my background was actually in actuarial science and economics.
And actually what?
Actuarial science.
What does that even mean?
It's the very exciting prospect of like measuring when people are going to die and then providing life insurance and like risk modeling.
Okay.
It's terrible.
How'd you get into that?
That's just my degree.
Okay.
I thought it was going to be fun. I was wrong.
Okay.
So I did that and then went through a period of like trying to figure out what I wanted to do outside of economics, and stumbled into like UI UX design, did a bunch of stuff around there.
Okay.
And then got my first job as a marketing assistant at an e-commerce company.
Okay.
And I remember asking them like a year into the job why they hired me, because I had like no experience, didn't know what I was doing, and like just zero experience.
What did they say?
Just potential.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I started in that, and then when I graduated, they promoted me as a CMO.
Yeah.
So I was running marketing there for a year and a half.
Okay.
But I remember one of my first tasks was that they wanted to start an email newsletter.
Yeah.
And I remember Googling how to email e-commerce.
Wow.
And that was like the humble beginnings of learning.
So were you the
marketing.
CMO at that point?
I started as a marketing assistant for 8
Yeah.
months, and then I became CMO after that.
Okay. So how old were you when you took over the CMO position?
21, 22.
So 21, 22, and this is what, a 6-figure company, a 7-figure company?
Yeah, mid 7 figures.
Mid 7-figure company that eventually, you scaled to some really nice numbers. So then what happened from there? When did you see that there was an opportunity to do something outside of that too?
So I actually tried to start like a necklace e-commerce company.
Oh, really? Okay.
Midway through last year, and just didn't know what I was doing, didn't pan out. And then I started, this company, Long Play, started very organically, where I was going to marketing events and entrepreneurship events. I was talking to these different 7-figure founders and realized they didn't have any email marketing set up, and it just blew my mind because they're leaving so much money on the table.
And what's your zone of genius? Like, are you an artist creator? Are you just like a natural born entrepreneur? Are you an operator? Like, where do you fit into those buckets?
I think I'm an artist at heart. I just want to create things.
Yeah.
And which is why I love e-com, because I think business is a really cool channel for you just to play around and do your art and happen to monetize it and make impact. Yeah. But especially with email marketing, it's a perfect combination for me as an artist, where there's design, there's copywriting, there's figuring out how you build a relationship with the customer. Right.
And let's talk about your vision for Long Play. Where do you want to take it? What do you want it to be like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What do you want to be known for? What do you want Long Play to be known for?
So I want Long Play just to be like the #1 email marketing agency for e-commerce businesses, especially in the kind of health, wellness, and lifestyle space. Yeah. And just kind of be that superpower that entrepreneurs know that when they launch an e-com company, you want to work with Long Play because we're going to help you scale up. Right. For me personally, I want to be more known in the education space and also just e-com outside of email marketing. Nice.
So you've been in our program now for a while, and we hit the slump where it's like, oh crap, sales aren't coming in, right? And can you talk a little bit about like what's happened since that time and the process to get there. So first of all, so many people go through these ups and there's downs, and we went back to the strategy. We were like, okay, do we have the right strategy, and are we executing on that? And we just kept chipping away. But talk a little bit about that slump and how ultimately we got through that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cliche, but it's one of those, like, you learn the most during, like, the most terrible periods.
Right.
But it was literally a month of, like, getting the ideal clients or the ideal leads come in, where these were, like, $5-6 million businesses. All I had to do was close them, and I couldn't close for the life of me. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. And then I think Chandler gave me literally a month of sales training. He probably wanted to rip his hair out because he was so frustrated. And then that was basically that whole month we couldn't even close 2 clients, which was our goal.
Right.
Then I think we had our monthly call, and we were like, hey, let's just sit down and do your limiting beliefs.
Right.
And I remember I blocked off like a whole Saturday, went offline,
Yep.
just did my limiting beliefs, came up with 6 of them.
Yep.
And it was one of those practices where it came out a lot easier than I thought it would, because it was so right in the back of my mind that I didn't realize.
Right.
Wrote those down and basically did the whole, what the limiting belief is, what's costing me, proof that's not true, and what I need to believe.
Yep.
And then turned the things I need to believe into an affirmation that I listen to each morning.
Yep.
I think literally like 2 weeks after that, closed like 4 clients.
4 clients, and our goal is 2 clients a month.
And then now we have the other problem of like, how do we fulfill on all these clients? But it's a great problem to have.
Well, which is what we're going to focus on, and then we're going to go back. But the main thing is, number 1, the mindset. You're 100% right. That starts everything. But number 2 is like what we kept talking about every single week behind the scenes is like, all right, do we have the right strategy, and are we executing the strategy? And if we could just continue to do that, we know that the sales are going to come. So many people get desperate, and then they go out and take a client that they shouldn't because they have this short-term slump. But the best thing that you can do is see your business from a high level in the form of a machine, keep filling that pipeline, and just keep chipping away. And that execution is so tough, and that's why it's so important to have coaches and peers to help guide you and have that accountability and have that mental support and whatnot, so that you're just continuing to build that machine. But if you do that, it all comes to fruition. And again, short-term slump followed by some records. And now, guess what? We're ready for the next level, and we're going to talk about some exponential growth and how to get to the next level. So let's go back, let's get on the whiteboard, break things down, and see what we can do. All right?
Sounds good.
All right. Time to take another business from 6 to 7 figures and map out how we're going to get there. Let's show Miss Jess Chans the way. Give her a round of applause. Yes. Woo!
So core of the business is we're an email marketing agency where we work with e-commerce businesses and we help them bring the email marketing revenue up to 30%. So right now the core issue is just how to build the team so that they have key ownership over the key metrics, train them the right way, and make sure the fulfillment's locked down. I think the core issue right now is that we have a lot of specialists on the team, and I'm still like the glue between everyone. So there's like 5 or 6 people that are right under me, and I'm just doing everything.
Yep. Tell us more about the background from a high level, who you work with, what the vision is, from a high level, what the numbers are, what your team is right now, and just in a little bit more detail.
So vision for the business is that we help all e-com businesses that we work with get to 30% of the revenue coming from email. Usually they start out at like roughly 5 to 10%. So you're usually seeing like 3 to 5x revenue growth. Next 6 months is to basically get 2 clients per month, get them onboarded, and get them to 30% of the revenue coming from email within 60 days.
Okay.
And then I think the other metric would be first flow launched within 3 weeks.
And what's our average lifetime value?
I think for 6 months, it's like 80,000.
What was it 4 months ago, 3 months ago?
I don't know, like 10,000.
No, that's a super important part, right?
How many clients a month are you doing now?
How many did you do the last 30 days?
Like 4 or 5. That's what's breaking everything right now. So
Also, if you can write down either a different color or same color, what's the challenge that we're trying to solve as well? Let's make sure to stay focused on that too.
the number one challenge is to get me out of the day-to-day fulfillment of the business so that we can focus on business growth and hit 6 figures per month.
Cool. How much time are you spending in the day-to-day fulfillment right now?
Probably like 25 hours a week.
Which is what percentage of your time?
40% of my time is spent on day-to-day fulfillment right now.
So how many hours a week are you working?
Like 40, 50.
Okay, so 25 over 40 or 50 is,
Probably more than, yeah,
yeah,
50%.
yeah, at least 50, yeah.
Yeah.
50 if not 60%. So 50 to 60% of your time right now is being spent in the day-to-day. And that's actually a dramatic improvement from when we even.
Well, it's funny because when I first came in, it was like 85% of my time was spent on fulfillment, and then we got in systems and became 10%, and then now it's back up to like 50%.
Yeah, because you built it to that next level, but now bringing in such an influx of clients, now we've got to have the proper team and structure and whatnot. So this is good.
And that's natural, right?
Yeah.
That's the next thing that breaks.
Well, it's natural where she's at. Longer term, the next time it breaks, that person that's owning it is responsible for getting the new team and new structure in place to duplicate themselves. So Chandler mentioned the word pods. That's what we're basically building, right? So you got it to the first level. Then this is the second break. The third break will be like you're supporting that person that's owning the results of it.
And I think the key part of this break is that like it's not breaking in the same way, because before my time was spent on copywriting and design, and now the fulfillment part I'm more on strategy development.
Yeah.
Mainly because the clients that we're bringing on are now $5 million businesses instead of just under $1 million.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more complexity that goes with the strategy.
Okay, good. Yeah, map out the current org chart as you have it now, and high level current team and current org chart.
So in terms of the pod that's needed to fulfill, there's always going to be at least one copywriter on each client, an editor, an account manager, a designer, and then VAs/QA people to implement and do QA checks. And the bottleneck right now is that the account manager and one of our senior copywriters are still relatively like 2 weeks into their job. And they're doing a good job, but they're still in training. And then the second piece is how to outsource my knowledge of email marketing and specifically e-commerce businesses, and outsource that strategy, because there's a lot that we've developed into templates and things like that. But there's a lot of just like understanding how email marketing fits into the rest of the business and understanding business strategy that goes into it that I found hard to explain. And then the second piece is just like there's a lot of direct contact to me where like I'm still like the account manager, like technically the VA should be living under the account manager, but like the account manager's new, so she's still my main touch point. And then I'm managing the editor, but the copywriter is still like referencing me in terms of like what's going on with strategy, how does this tie back to copy. So I basically have like 6 people reporting to me to piece all the moving parts together. One of the key issues is that everyone's in specialist roles and there's no one that's looking at accounts from an overarching level.
Is this account manager, are they a generalist?
Yeah.
Okay, because you need some generalists.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, with like pretty much the vast majority of small businesses, you need a lot more generalists than you would think. So you have a bunch of specialists here, but like you need people, like the number one thing that we look for besides culture fit is A2FSO, ability to figure stuff out, right? That you need somebody that's going to be able to like put the glue together and like keep the wheels on and just be able to solve problems. So that account manager is, you're exactly right. They're going to be the leader of the pod. Like for instance, Chandler's the leader of our pod on the machine side. And you know, him and I talk about strategy, but I only basically come in for strategy. You guys never reach out to me or anything. It's all to Chandler, right? Same exact situation that we need here. So this is going to morph, and I know we need to get them up to speed. I think there's several things that we're trying to solve here. One is getting them up to speed as effectively as possible, having the management structure in place so that you're not pulled in so many different directions, and then looking at systems. I think that's the third piece. So let's start with the first one. What's your plan to get them up to speed as effectively and quickly as possible?
So we have an 8-week training program that we put together where it's super clear on what the milestones are and the entire role of their job. So with the account manager is probably the most critical one that we need to train right now.
Yep.
And there's 3 parts of the position. So there's internal account management, which is basically project management.
Yep.
Second piece is client management, and then third piece is strategy.
Yep.
So in terms of internal account management, I think that's relatively easy to train because it's just about project management and whether or not you hit deadlines.
Yep.
And then the second piece, which is email strategy, is the hardest because right now it's literally just like your KPI is to get accounts up to 30% of the revenue coming from email, but that's that's a massive KPI to suddenly just ramp someone up in.
Right.
And then the third one is just client account management, which is still relatively straightforward, where it's just watching calls and emails.
So we look at it as like we give people 14 days, Like 8 weeks is a long time to wait for somebody to start producing results. Even if they're not doing anything related to strategy, but they're that go-to that they can just know what all the details are and you can still handle strategy, I think that's a really much stronger position to be in. Is there anything that is like that they could learn or they could do themselves that they could learn that part of the business? What about this audit thing?
The audit is also.
So audit is like strategy, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
And that's been able to be systemized so that you don't have to do it anymore, right? So that means if that's probably the hardest part, if not very closely with what you just mentioned, the hardest part, and that's been like systemized and handed off to somebody else. I think like basically what I would do is I would have them learn that process enough to be able to put together their own audits and their own strategy of like what they're finding, and literally, so they're going to watch 3 that you've already done, and then they do 2 or 3 that you give them the information and don't show them the recording, don't show them the answers, and have them present to you. In a week, they're already 80% of the way there on understanding the fundamentals that matter and what to look for and what not, combining it with the templates, combining it with these things that you're building. I think that's the 80-20 in my opinion. So number 1, internal project management. Number 2, I think client management, and at least understanding obviously the terms and definitions and things so that they can speak the lingo. 3, go through like this hyper series. We can't wait 8 weeks. You can't wait that long. What that's going to do is A, make the business like move too slow, but also B, it's going to take too long until they're producing additional cash that's going to slowly hurt you from a cash flow standpoint until you're like in a really bad spot with cash, which we want to totally avoid. All right. Again, we look at our hardest position of all, which is coaching and being great at strategy and everything. We give them 14 days. From 0 to taking on clients, 14 days in our toughest position at all. I would challenge you to see what we can do to bring it down to definitely under 30. But they can get 80% of the way there. They're not going to have your knowledge from a strategy standpoint in that time. But in 14 days, we need them to be saving you so much time that they're ROI positive. 14 days. And it's a perfect segue into like building a world-class team. There's 4 main pillars. As you guys know, we like to do this. This is basically how to build a world-class team. All right. The first thing that we've got to get really world-class at is hiring. Okay. The second piece is onboarding. Oops. The third is managing. And the last is developing. So what we need is an action plan. From a hiring standpoint, who are the next couple hires? 1, 2, 3. We need that in place. We've got to go back and make sure that we update the org chart and look at that. Onboarding, we've already got some actions here. We're going to dial that in. We're going to look at how we can have people become better at strategy and how we can also take it from 8 weeks down to 30 days, maybe even 3 weeks. Managing, we're going to improve the daily huddle. We're going to have other people start bringing results for the client status, and developing as soon as, whether it be strategy and copywriting tips and everything else, we're going to always be doing something, at least one thing per week that you're going to be training and developing your team, all the way from VAs, all the way up to account managers and everybody in between, helping them see what you see, helping them know what you know, because you're the brains right now. But we've got to change this to be about the company and the business and the machine, not necessarily just relying on you. Make sense? Mm-hmm. If you do these 4 things, holy cow, you are going to be insanely successful. And we've got to do these 4 things. Because you've got an exponential model that come in a couple months, it's going to be testing time, right?
Because I think the first stage of the business was figuring out like the business model and our strategy and the audit, which is more of the technical work, and then now it's literally just team.
There you go.
Cool.
All right, let's give a round of applause, guys. Can I get a picture of that? All right, so the big takeaway that we have here is that if you want to get out of the weeds, yes, you need great systems, but you also need somebody to run the show, somebody to replace you, and you need to build a world-class team. We broke down the 4 pillars of how to do this, but what I want you to think about is exactly who do you need to hire next? What order are you going to do this, and start to build out your team systems? This is one of the most important forms of leverage that you can have possibly in your business. So take this very, very seriously. What most people do is they look at hiring and building a team as this overwhelming, really complex thing that they then think, hey, I'm just gonna do it myself. And they keep doing it themselves and they stay on the 6-figure hamster wheel. No, we wanna break that. We wanna allow you to delegate, use systems, use the tools that we talked about here to get free from the weeds. Because once you see the light and see that other people can do things just as well, if not even better than you, you're gonna see the true path to go from 6 to 7 figures. So follow in Jess's footsteps here, get yourself out of the weeds and get started building that world-class team. So if you got value out of this video, I want to invite you to click the like button and comment below. Who is the next hire that you are going to go after? How can I support? Team is a very important topic. It's not talked about enough, so I'm here to support you in building that world-class team. Comment below, and we look forward to seeing you in the next From 6 to 7 Figure video. All right, Jess, so when you were out here in LA, we talked a little bit about where you're at in the business and the big opportunity for your team. And now, here over a month later, your team is in a totally different spot. So let's start with that. How has your team transformed since getting here, getting on the whiteboard, and talking about the big gap in your team, and kind of where you're at from that standpoint?
Yeah, one of the bigger hires we've made since then was a project manager, which was one of the roles that we were kind of back and forth on and wasn't sure we had much clarity on. Brought her in. I think she's been on for like a month and a half now. And she has been the buffer I needed between the team and the day-to-day operations and doing kind of the strategy work. So that's been huge, where she can take ownership of fielding questions and just like all things project management. So we have so many moving parts. Second thing is just the team has taken on so much more ownership over like their particular roles. Right. And have taken on, or just more empowered now to figure out how they can improve the processes themselves in terms of how they're communicating with each other.
Yeah, and part of this clarity came from going deep into the numbers. Talk about some of what we've done from a number standpoint over the past 30 days.
So many numbers. A couple of the big ones that we dove into was a utilization forecast, and that was huge, because before that we were just kind of ballparking like, hey, I think we can take on 5 clients until we add on the 6th one, and then we realized that they were operating at 200% capacity and everyone was stressed out. So the utilization report helped us really break down between our estimates and then also using Toggle as well to verify some of those estimates.
And explain what a utilization forecast is.
So utilization forecast is basically saying when we bring on a new client, how many hours is it going to take in month 1 for an account manager, for a designer developer, for an implementer, for a project manager. So we know based on when we bring on a new client, they're going to be using, let's say 20 hours a week for them in month 1. So now with this, we can say when we have 6 clients, we know that this maxes out a project manager because they're going to be at like 135 hours overall. And it helps us predict that if we're bringing on, for example, 2 clients per month, we're going to need a new project manager to come in and offload some of that work every 3 months, for example.
Yeah. So you can just make such better decisions. You can be ahead, which we've learned. If you're not ahead from who you need to hire and where you're at with your team, then you're behind. And it takes some time, sometimes 30, 60, maybe even 90 days to fill certain roles to get them up to the speed that we need to, especially as you go upstream and work with higher end clients. So having that utilization forecast just allows you to take out so much of what you think in your head and get it down into an objective decision. Takes out the guesswork and just makes things so much easier. So now that you're equipped with that, you're just in such a better spot to make sure that we don't get into a people issue in such a big way in the future, right?
For sure. And all our hiring decisions before was like, hey, we need this person literally 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And we're rushing and scrambling and stressing out.
So Jess, if we had to simplify things down, what are a couple team-related lessons that if you could go back a couple months and tell that Jess and tell other business owners, what are some of those lessons that you've learned that are now ingrained in you?
Define the role very clearly. it should be incredibly clear whether people are a good fit and also whether they're performing within the first few weeks. Second thing would be your team's mindset and how excited they are going into work, I think is the biggest determiner of success overall. So that's something that I touch base with my team on a lot in terms of just how excited are you for work today? Because if they're not, then no matter how great things look on the outside, it's eventually going to start coming down.
Right. And the third one for me is knowing your numbers. Like the financials, we've gone so deep into that. The utilization forecast, we've gone so deep into that. The numbers give you the clarity to take out the emotion, to take out what we could do, to take out what we thought was happening, and look at the facts and allow us to just make better decisions. But again, taking out the stress and making better decisions, all of it just compounds positively. So congrats on the growth and development as a business owner. You've learned so much, and now you've got these really invaluable lessons in your skill set going forward. So excited for you, Jess. Appreciate you, and we're excited for the future growth.
Thanks, Austin.